Hello, welcome to Tabletop CP. Today I'm going to be doing a quick painting tutorial on the USMC, World War II. I got a new camera. Well, I've had the camera for a little bit, but I got a new controller for it, or an app for my phone I can control it with. So this is kind of a test run for that. This is also the last USMC guy I have to paint to finish my platoon. So kind of a celebration of finishing up this platoon, I'm going to do a quick painting tutorial on it. The last guy I needed was this BAR, and he will allow me to field a type F or E, I believe, platoon and chain of command, and also just give me extra BARs for when I run these Marines in bolt action. So this is the standard that I'm going to be going for here. I'm not an expert painter by any means, but I do like them to look nice, and I mainly want them to be done quickly. I don't like spending a lot of time on models, so I've developed some methods to paint them quickly and they look decent. Because my main thing is I want to get them on the table. So I will go ahead and do a quick tutorial on the quick and dirty method of painting a US Marine. So obviously I've primed him in gray. You can prime him in black as well. And the first color I am going to use, I'm just going to cover the whole uniform in this dark green color. This is model air, but it works fine. It's actually pre-thinned because it's made for airbrushes. A couple things. I do have a wet palette. This is just a container with a wet paper towel and a piece of parchment paper in it. It will keep the paint moist, and it will allow you to use paint for a long time, even the next day. Another thing that I use is these glasses. These are some as seen on TV type things, but they work good. They magnify everything very well. As you get older, your eyes aren't as good as they used to be, so these help me a lot. Alright, so go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'll do is take this dark green and a big brush and just cover the entire model. Alright, so the dark green has dried, and now I will use everyone's favorite hobby product, Agrax Earthshade, and I'll just cover the uniform. But also real quick, I am going to paint the helmet. This is a bear helmet with a net over it, and I use brown violet, which is what I use for all of my American helmets. Real quick, I should probably mention the helmet cover. When I put this guy together, I wasn't expecting to do a video on it, and I know that one of the main things people want to learn is how to paint the camo on the helmet covers these guys wear. So obviously I can't do that because he's not wearing one. So I'll just go over real quick what I used. So for the base color, I use this German camo beige World War II. I do a Agrax over that, and then dry brush this over that again to brighten it back up. And for the spots, I take 3 colors. German camo medium brown. That goes on first. And then I use Russian uniform World War II for kind of a pale green. And that goes on next. And then for the brighter blobs of green, I use reflective green. And the way I do it, I actually mix the camouflage colors with a tiny bit of the German camo beige World War II. It kind of gives it a faded look, so that it kind of blends in with the base color a little bit more. It's not as in your face standing out, but just a real tiny amount, and that'll kind of blend it in and make it just looks better that way. And then I'll take a toothpick, and with the toothpick I'll make sure that another thing you have to do is make sure the paint is very watery, and then you just use the toothpick to dab the dots on. And this kind of camo is kind of just big dots all over the place. So that's it for the helmet cover. I wish I would have actually built this guy with one so I could show it, but like I said, I wasn't planning on doing a tutorial on these Marines. So I'll go ahead and just paint the helmet, this guy's helmet, with brown violet, and then use Agrax and then let that dry. So the Agrax is now dried, and I did let the brown violet on the helmet dry before I put the Agrax on it. So here's the model now, and really it doesn't look too bad like this, I don't think. If you really wanted to get super fast and quick and dirty, you could just cover it with the base coat and put Agrax on it and you're good to go. But we're going to make it look a little bit better. So these guys' uniforms, they could get pretty light when they're out in the field a lot, in the sun, salt water and everything. And it had a kind of a greenish gray appearance almost, to my eyes at least. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the base color, the dark green for the uniform, and I'm going to mix in a tiny bit of this US light gray with it. And then I will take a makeup brush, and this is what I'm going to use as a dry brush. I found these are really good for dry brushing because they're very soft. So especially on vehicles and stuff, when you just want to get at the edge of something, if you have a really soft brush like a makeup brush, it's really great for dry brushing, edge highlighting. But this guy, he needs a little bit more. So this is kind of a stiffer bristled makeup brush, still soft, but it's not a super soft makeup brush like, say, like this one. This one's very soft, so this would be a good one for vehicles. But anyway, so I'm going to mix the US light gray and some of the dark green, and I am going to dry brush the uniform to give him to raise up the color a little bit and add some edge highlighting. So real quick before I start that, I'll just go over, I don't know if, I'm assuming most people know what dry brushing is, but what I do is I mix the two colors together, put the brush in it, and then you want to just wipe off almost all of the color off of it, so that when you hit the model, it doesn't just slop on there. It picks up on the high parts, especially on the raised edges. So I'll go ahead and do that. So now I've got the highlighting on. I don't know if it's easy to see. It's definitely lighter, and it's looking a little bit too light now. But it's okay because we're going to do one more step here. So you can make this as light as you want, because what we're going to do is we're going to tone it down now. So the way I do that is I take another wash. This one's called Athonian Camo Shade. This is a green wash, kind of like a olive drab wash almost. And I'm going to go over the uniform again with this color, and this will kind of tone down the brightness of the uniform now, and it will get down in the recesses again. So I don't know if it's really necessary to do the Agrax and this, but that's how I started, and I just want to stay consistent, so that's what I did. You could probably just skip the Agrax first shade wash altogether, really, if you wanted to, and just use the straight Athonian Camo Shade. So I will now cover the uniform in Athonian Camo Shade. Now the Athonian Camo Shade is done, is dry. So we are done with the uniform. It's not perfect. It's probably not even a perfect shade, but it's what I've gone with, and I'm sticking with it for consistency's sake. I think if I had to do it all over again, I might go with a different color, but it's good enough for me. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to paint all the pouches, straps, all his equipment, including the gaiters over his boots. So for this we will use khaki gray. This is a great color for this. I used to use green gray, but I've learned that this khaki gray is a great color for the equipment. I think it looks more realistic than the green gray does. So anyway, I will now paint all the equipment, gaiters, the helmet chin strap with khaki gray. Here's the khaki gray on the equipment. I also took that same dry brush and hit the net over the helmet with it, with the khaki gray as well. Next thing I do is I'm going to paint the boots, and that is going to be German camo medium brown. Alright, done the boots, German camo medium brown. So only really a couple things left to paint on him. So I'm going to do the wood now on the weapon, and that's just the hand grip and the stock on the BAR. And I use mahogany brown for wood on all of my every model I do. So I'll go ahead and get that one knocked out. The wood is done. It's didn't take much for this, not a lot of wood on it. So now I'm going to paint the weapon itself, and I'm just going to paint it black. That's how I've been doing it with the Marines, and I'll give a gray highlight later. But another great color you can use for weapons is this Model Air metallic black. This is really good. It gives it a little shine, but it's a black, so it looks like you know, like a weapon should. Just a quick example here. This maybe not the best example, but that metallic black here, it's a little shiny, but it's still black. The lighting's not good, but it is a black shiny metallic look. So, and it's really fast, obviously, because it's one coat and you don't have to do anything to it. So now I will just but for the Marines, I've been painting them black, so I'm just going to stick with that. Alright, so now we got all the equipment, everything painted. So now what I'm going to do is take that Agrax, so I'm going to go over all the webbing and the weapon with it. You may ask why I didn't just paint everything and then just do Agrax over everything. The answer is because when you do the dry brush on the uniform, it would get all over the equipment. So I'll just take a small brush and just neatly go over all the equipment with Agrax. Alright, so the Agrax on the equipment is now dried. So you could stop right here and be perfectly happy with this guy. Put paint his skin and base and be on, get fighting with him. But I'm going to do, I like to bring him up to what I like to call a high tabletop standard, I guess I should say. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the barest amount of highlighting on this guy. Not even really highlight, I'm just going to take the base color and go over the stuff that I put the Agrax on. The only thing I will do some highlighting on is the equipment. And what I do with that is I just take the base color, which is khaki gray. I'm going to add a little bit of this stone gray into it. And I'll just hit it lightly with the brush, it'll just highlight the edges. I'm not going to go over it with the khaki gray first and then do that, I'm just going to go straight to that. If you really wanted to make this guy spend a little bit more time on him, you can do some true highlighting and you'll raise the color up by adding lighter color to the base color here and there, and painting everything, all the edges by hand, and that looks really nice. I've done that with my early war Germans, and it definitely looks nice, but it does take a lot longer, and I'm all about getting these guys done, so that's why I call it the quick and dirty method. So I'll take the base color of everything, the wood, the brown for the boots, and just go over the higher parts with it with the small brush. And then I'll add that stone gray to the khaki gray and just do a light dry brush just with my regular brush over the pouches. So here we have the finished, well, uniform wise and equipment wise he's finished. So this really took hardly any time at all to do this. I usually do these guys in batches of 6 to 8 at a time. Just do batch painting, so all one color on all 8, and then just like an assembly line type thing. But since it's the last guy I had, I'm just doing them solo. And really, this hasn't taken hardly any time. Most of the time has been spent waiting for the washes to dry. It's not the best model you'll ever see, and the lighting isn't that great, so the colors probably don't look totally right, but looks decent. Looks like a marine. Next thing I'll do is I'm going to do the skin, which if you've seen any of my tutorials before, you know this is the part that I hate the absolute most. So I'm going to do it the same way, quick and dirty. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this highlight flesh. I'm not going to build up from a darker flesh and build up to highlight flesh. I'm just going to start with straight highlight flesh. And that's going to be the only color I use for the flesh. And then we'll put a wash on and we'll get to that, and that'll bring out all the detail. It's quick and dirty skin, it works fine, it looks decent, and it's fast. Alright, so I got the skin painted. It's kind of ugly right now, but what we're going to do is we're going to put some, another one of my favorite hobby products, the Reichland Flesh Shade. And it will bring the highlights out, add some shadow, it'll make it look pretty decent. I did put 2 coats of the highlight flesh on, just to, because it's pretty light, so it takes a couple coats to cover it completely. And I'm also going to put 2 coats of Reichland Flesh Shade on, so I will do that now. There we have the skin completed. So the lighting's not that good, but super fast, super easy, and it looks semi-decent. I've had better luck using the highlight flesh as just the base color than any of the darker colors, because when you put the Reichland Flesh Shade on, it darkens it. I did put 2 coats of Reichland on because I wanted them to be a little bit darker. I figured these guys would be a little more tan than maybe some of the guys in Europe. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 5 o'clock shadow on them. I've been doing that on all these guys just to give them that. I've been in combat for a few days straight and I haven't had time to shave look. So to do that, what I do is I just take the flesh color, the highlight flesh, and I mix a little bit of any color. You can do any color you like. I just use the German Camel medium brown I use for the boots. And I put a little bit of that in with a little bit of the highlight flesh color, and I just paint it on to on his face as a 5 o'clock shadow. Alright, so he is pretty much done. If you can see that 5 o'clock shadow or not. Kind of zoom in there. It's not the best, but gets the point across. It's important to put that flesh color mixed in with it. If not, it just looks like a brown thing painted on his face. But mix that flesh color in, it blends it in a little bit and makes it look like what it's supposed to be. So the last step I'm going to do for this guy is I'm going to paint all the buttons on in the canteen caps. I'm going to do them in black. So I'm just going to take some black. I'm going to get a toothpick, dip it in the black, and then just go through and dot all the buttons and do the canteen caps. I do the belt buckle too. I don't know if it should be, but I've just been doing that, so I'll do that real quick. Here we have the buttons and canteen caps. I like to do that, it just adds a little pop to it instead of just being bland. It gives a little definition. So that's it for the Marine himself. Now it's just time to do the base. And for the base, all I do is I use, these are for island fighting, so these are going to be just a sand yellow. do a couple coats of that. This stuff's the model air, so it's pretty watery, so it takes a couple coats to get it fully covered. And then I'll take some, after that's dry, I'll dry brush it with a little bit of Iraqi sand. And then I just use that same sand yellow around the edge of the base. Base is now painted, sand color. Nothing fancy there. And the final step I need to do is I'm going to add some plants to the base, just to make it look better. So I just pick these two. You know, you can pick whatever you like, or do no plants, whatever. So go ahead and put these on, and then get ready to wrap it up. Alright, so we're all done. Glue's still a little wet. I do add a little dab of white glue to the bushes just to make them stick better. Some of them are supposed to be self-adhesive, but they don't always stay on, but if you glue them on, they do. So there he is, last BAR gunner for the Marine platoon. So quick and dirty. Like I said, it doesn't take very long at all to do these guys, and they look pretty decent, I think. Inspect them pretty closely, or you're going to find some that they're not as great, but from tabletop distance they look good. So that'll do it for this. I'm going to go over to, I'm going to get all my Marines out and just do a little Army showcase of my Marines, and that will wrap up the USMC platoon. And here we have my completed Type D platoon for my Marines. This is 1942-43 organization. So first, real quick, I know at the beginning of the video I said I was painting my last Marine with the BAR to get my Type F, but turns out I'm actually 2 more. I need 9 total BARs to field the Type F platoon. So I still have some guys left on the sprue, so I'm going to have to knock out 2 more, but that's alright. Like I said, don't take very long. So we'll just go over the Type D here. This platoon consists of a platoon leader. Got the gunnery sergeant here, platoon sergeant. You have a BAR squad. This consists of 2 BARs, 2 crew each, and 3 riflemen, and a squad leader. Then you have your 3 line platoons, or line squads, sorry. These are 6 guys, and then a 2-man BAR team, which is integrated into the squad, so you don't have 2 separate teams in the squad. It's just one big team, and then each one is led by a corporal, squad leader. So sadly, I'm not going to be able to get my Type F platoon out like I thought I was going to, but that's alright. It's just that is a different setup, which is kind of interesting because it has a 3 fire teams. So you actually got 3 teams with a squad leader, but each fire team has it's a fire team, and it's got its own leader, which is kind of interesting. Haven't tried it yet, but it seems a little unwieldy to me, but I haven't really had any experience with it, so it might be good. I don't know. But then I got all my support back here. So start over here. Got my flamethrower, sniper team, bazooka team. Got my medium mortar and spotter. Spotter can double as a forward observer for a mortar battery as well, and chain of command. Light howitzer, and a medium machine gun. And over here I got some extras. These are more for bolt action. Bolt action, I usually run my command team with 2 men on 1 base. So that's who that is. That's the platoon leader for my bolt action platoon. 2 guys with SMGs. I got my bolt action squad leaders with SMGs there. A couple more BARs. These guys can do 3 BARs a squad in bolt action, which is pretty good. So the 9 that I make for the Type F platoon and chain of command will come in handy as well in bolt action. I got 2 shotguns. Not sure how good they are, but seem okay. Give you tough fighters. And these guys here, when I'm not using them in bolt action, they're going to be used to crew the support weapons, because generally these support weapons have 5 crewmen. So there'll just be extra bodies to make up the 5-man crew on those teams there. And that'll do it. So it's, aside from needing to do the 2 more BARs that I wasn't expecting, but it's been fun painting these guys. I think they're American, so they're pretty fast to paint, and using the methods that I showed you earlier, you can get these guys knocked out pretty quickly. I think I got all of these done in just a few months, including support weapons and everything. So now I just got to finish my Japanese, which I just started, and hopefully by another month or 2 months I'll have them done, and then I'll be ready to do some Pacific fighting, which also means Pacific terrain. So that'll be fun as well. So starting in a whole new theater here. So that'll do it. So thanks for watching this one. We'll see you next time.